For over a decade, Henry Caldwell's life had been reduced to empty boardrooms and cold, cavernous halls of a mansion that once echoed with laughter. Every photograph, every dusty toy left untouched in his daughter's room served as a painful reminder of a life that was stolen from him. People saw him as the picture of wealth and control, but behind the tailored suits and executive presence was a man barely holding it together. He had traded joy for silence, connection for security, love for loneliness. His days were filled with routine and guarded walls, physical and emotional. One crisp autumn morning, while passing by a local community center during his usual walk, Henry heard a child's voice singing faintly through an open window. It wasn't just any song, it was her song. The one his daughter used to sing before bedtime, a melody etched into his soul. That moment struck him like a bolt of lightning. He stopped, frozen, heart racing. The voice was hauntingly familiar. Unable to shake the feeling, Henry returned day after day, listening from a distance. Curiosity turned into obsession. Pain turned into purpose. He began asking questions, seeking the identity of the girl behind the voice. And as he peeled back the layers of this mystery, he discovered not only clues to the past, but a chance to heal. What unfolded next was a moving story of redemption, a journey that would inspire even the coldest hearts. Henry's search for truth would soon become a battle not only for justice, but for the future he thought he had lost forever. Henry stood outside the community center, his breath visible in the crisp morning air. The melody floated through the narrow gap in the window like a whisper from the past, soft, innocent, and heartbreakingly familiar. His knees weakened, his chest tightened, and for a moment, the world around him faded. That song. It wasn't just any lullaby. It was her song, the one he sang to Chloe every night until the tragedy. The notes danced with memories he had buried under years of grief and denial. And now, sung in the same delicate cadence, by a voice so eerily similar, it shattered his sense of reality. Driven by something deeper than logic, Henry returned the next day, and the day after that. The staff began to notice the sharply dressed man lingering on the sidewalk, eyes fixed on the window like it held the key to his soul. He didn't know the girl's name. He didn't even know if it was her. But something inside him, something paternal, instinctual, refused to dismiss it as coincidence. It was as if fate had cracked open the door he thought was long shut. Eventually, he caught a glimpse of the girl, maybe 8 or 9, with dark curls, bright eyes, and a dimpled smile that nearly brought him to tears. Her presence lit something inside him that had long gone dim. It was in that moment Henry realized he hadn't truly felt anything in years. Not until now. What started as a haunting memory quickly became a living question. Who was this girl? Why did she know that song? The journey ahead would not be easy. But what lay before him wasn't just about closure. It was a second chance. A moving story was about to unfold. One that would inspire not just a broken father, but anyone who ever believed love could find its way back through the darkness. Henry couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The song, the girl, the way she smiled. It was all too familiar. Driven by a mix of hope and desperation, he hired a private investigator to quietly look into Lily's background. What they found was alarming. Missing records, sealed documents, and inconsistencies in his daughter's original death certificate. It was as if someone had gone to great lengths to erase her from existence. The turning point came when a DNA test confirmed the impossible. Lily was Chloe, his daughter. She hadn't died that tragic day. She'd been kidnapped and given a new identity. Shocked and overwhelmed, Henry realized his life had been built on a lie. The betrayal cut deeper when he discovered who was behind it: James, his former business partner and close friend. Motivated by greed and jealousy, James had manipulated the tragedy to take control of their company and destroy Henry's family from the inside out. Now, with the truth in hand, Henry had something to fight for. Not just justice, but a future. His journey was no longer about grief. It was about reclaiming what was stolen and healing what was broken. It was a moving tale of love lost and found, and one that would inspire anyone who's ever held on to hope when the world said it was gone. With proof that Lily was really Chloe, Henry expected the law to be on his side. But he quickly learned the truth was only half the battle. His former business partner, James, the very man who once toasted his daughter's birth, was now a respected figure with deep connections in politics, law enforcement, and the courts. And he wasn't about to let his crimes come to light without a fight. Henry filed for custody, thinking the DNA evidence would be enough. But he was met with delay after delay, technicalities and court motions clearly designed to exhaust him. Lawyers bought with money, judges swayed by influence. It was a rigged game. James had spent years building a fortress of power, and now that fortress stood between a father and his daughter. Still, Henry refused to give up. Every night he studied court documents, called in favors from honest allies, and built a case brick by brick. He knew Chloe didn't remember him yet, but he would become the kind of man she could remember, one worth fighting for. And he wasn't just fighting James anymore, he was battling a system that failed the very people it was meant to protect. Through all the setbacks and heartbreak, Henry's love never wavered. His resolve became his strength, and slowly, cracks began to form in the wall James had built. The journey was exhausting, but it was real. Moving in its depth and powerful in its message, Henry's battle would inspire others who had been silenced by power, proving that truth, no matter how buried, can rise again. When Henry felt like he was running out of options, a handwritten note arrived at his office. "I know what happened. Let's talk." It led him to Marcus, James's former associate and someone Henry hadn't seen since the early days of their company. Marcus looked worn down by guilt, and with a shaking voice, he admitted the truth. Years ago, Marcus helped James cover up Chloe's kidnapping. At first, he believed it was to avoid scandal, but as the lies grew, so did his regret. Seeing the girl now, living as someone else, while her real father suffered, had become too much to bear. Marcus couldn't undo the past, but he could help make it right. With access to confidential files, old communications, and financial transactions, Marcus became the key Henry needed. Together, they quietly gathered evidence, building a case strong enough to force the court to reopen the investigation. When they finally went public, the truth shattered James's carefully built image and exposed the corruption behind it all. The alliance between Henry and Marcus was unexpected but powerful. Their journey was moving, proof that even those who've made mistakes can choose redemption. And their courage would inspire others to believe that no matter how far gone things seem, the truth still matters, and it's never too late to fight for it. When the judge granted Henry full custody, it felt less like a victory and more like a breath he'd been holding for years. Chloe, his daughter, was finally coming home. But this wasn't the end of the journey. She didn't remember him. To her, Henry was a kind stranger with eyes that seemed to know her soul. He didn't try to rush their bond. Instead, he showed up every day with quiet patience. They started small, sharing meals, reading together, walks in the park. At first, she was shy, guarded, but over time, the laughter returned, and so did the warmth in her eyes. There were tough moments, nights filled with confusion and questions she wasn't ready to ask. But slowly, Chloe began to open up. When she called him Dad for the first time, it brought Henry to tears. It was in those simple, quiet moments that the healing truly began. They weren't just building a home, they were rediscovering each other, choosing to move forward, to forgive, and to love. Their story is moving because it reminds us that family is more than blood. It's commitment, resilience, and heart. And it continues to inspire those who've lost something precious to believe that even the most broken stories can still have beautiful endings.